care. Now, this is actually something that constantly happens. Because the same agent, let me just tell you, at the same time that they were tipped off about Brandon Scott Holt going on a shooting spree and that they ignored it, the same agents were involved in another case. This was a case of a man in Indianapolis, and this man was upset during the summer about Black Lives Matter rioting. He had a black neighbor in his neighborhood. So he put up a protest sign on his fence that had a racial slur on it. Okay, it had the N-word on it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI was called by his black neighbor, who claimed that he was trying to racially intimidate him with that sign to do something. So the FBI was, oh my God, they got real fast into the Bat Cave and got in the Batmobile, and they went all the way out to Stephen Hone's house, and they investigated him. They asked him why he did that. Was he trying to intimidate his neighbor? And he's like, you know what? I don't like my neighbor either, but my main reason for putting up these inflammatory signs on my fence is to protest Black Lives Matter, which you can disagree on the aesthetics of it. He was playing Dixie. He was playing the song Dixie, which is like a Confederacy song. And he was playing it super loud out of his house. He has a right to listen to whatever music he wants.
Right.
He has a right to put up whatever poster he wants. However, the FBI raided him and charged him.
For what? For just a teeny little bit of weed, right?
Two things. So they had a very questionable case. So when they feel like they have a political case, they'll stack BS charges. So he was a legal gun owner who smoked marijuana. Most people think that if you smoke weed and you have a legal gun, that it's not a problem, because that's the impression people get.
Right.
This is actually a hidden crime.
Yeah.
But even if marijuana is decriminalized in your state, the federal government can still charge you for being a gun owner who is in possession of an illicit substance.
Wow.
But they only care if you have your politics involved.
They never charge this unless, and the Huffington Post even said this, they only use this when they don't like your political beliefs.
Right. Well, that's literally the Sam Francis anarcho-tyranny. You know, it's like you have all these...
They will prosecute against anyone else. It's just against people that come to their attention for having political ideology. Now, there's another exacerbating factor in this case. Hone was also charged with violating the civil rights of his black neighbor. And this is charged under the Housing Act.
Right.
Because the case that the FBI made was that he put that poster up
to intimidate
his black neighbor.
Right. Of course.
So basically, he was charged with having something on his own property. A lot of trolls that were, when this was published on UNS, trolls were saying, well, you can't hang a sign on someone else's fence that has, racist stuff on it. And I said, well, he didn't actually hang it on his fence. It was on his fence. They shared the fence, but it was on his fence. Okay? Right. On his side of the fence, not on the black guy's.
Has a black person ever played loud music that was offensive to white people's sensibilities? You know, I mean,
they blast the N-word.
It's like everywhere you go, it's like a constant assault on the ears. You know, you'll have the car with the black guy in it blasting his music, so it's reverberating into all the windows in the neighborhood, and it's So the
FBI. The reason they charged him for the weed was because they're essentially, the main charge is the hate speech. Now, America is not supposed to have a hate speech law.
Right.
But they can spin the law in a way, in our corrupt judiciary. They can spin the law in a way where you essentially get prosecuted for hate speech, just like in Europe. And in this man's case, they did that, but they want to have something to back it up.
Right.
In case a right-winger out there, hint, wink, wink, a right-winger out there decides to actually fight these things.
Right.
fight these things.
Right.
The reason they keep getting away with it is that all of their defendants are indigent. They're poor. I have a heartbreaking Twitter message from this guy, Stephen Hone, from when this was happening. I didn't see it at the time because I didn't hear about it.
Right.
Only another thing too is that they muffle your screams. The national media doesn't cover these stories until they convict you.
Right.
Okay. So when they arrested him, only local media picked it up, so no one heard about it.
Yeah.
But if national media, so anyway, the FBI charged him essentially with hate speech because a black person got offended by the music he was playing and the political speech he was putting on his property, and they added the meat, which is the marijuana charge.
What was in the Twitter message?
Oh, the Twitter message was, help. He said, I didn't do anything. All I did was put up a sign. I'm just using my First Amendment rights. The FBI is railroading me. I'm innocent of what they're accusing me of, but I can't find a lawyer. Is there a First Amendment lawyer out there that could help me?
Yeah.
All to deaf ears.
Oh my God. That's the worst thing about this is the breakdown. I mean, when you have the legal system itself is being hijacked, and these you have these Soros-backed prosecutors, and this phenomenon of the Bronx juries, which seems to be more and more. I mean, we have a situation. There was a situation where the black mugger mugged a man, an old man, shot him and killed him when the guy tried to run away, and then said that he felt threatened by the old man, the elderly gentleman, white guy, when he fled. And so he shot him in self-defense, even though he was mugging him, and the jury let him off. The jury let him off, like the Chauvin trial.
Let me make something clear, though. I'm not a lawyer, and I can't give you legal advice. But the record of political dissidents, actual bona fide political dissidents being prosecuted as political dissidents, right? Political prosecutions, is not that bad.
Yeah.
The reason why their record is so good is because everyone pleads guilty,
Right.
despite having evidence that's exonerating. So I'll explain to you some things that off the top of my head. The Rise Above movement in California was able to win an appeal. Not an appeal, I'm sorry. A judge, they were fighting their case very fiercely with privately paid lawyers, and they were able to get their case thrown out by a federal judge, which infuriated the FBI. Now, that case has been appealed, but they haven't filed new charges yet.
Right.
They won, of course, on appeal. You can shop for a judge and maybe win an appeal, but the fact that they took a defeat after all the effort they put in California on that,
Right.
and even in Virginia, where they were able to get the guys in Virginia to plead guilty before the trial, and they pled guilty for a long story. The judge is in the tank, Judge Norman Moon, very controversial judge who has actual left communists and leftists writing his legal opinions.
Yes.
He has an Israeli woman is writing his legal opinions. He's an 80-something-year-old man. I've heard stories about Judge Moon where he was falling asleep during hearings. He fell asleep in his chair. He's old. So he's not writing his legal opinions. It's commies and graduate students that are his law clerks and an Israeli citizen that are his law clerks that are writing opinions on political opponents.
Yeah.
So basically, let me just get back to the main point, though, is that we have the cases where people fight this at trial and they win, or they get appeal, or they get the case thrown out, or they get a mistrial, and they're able to force more and more mistrials, as happened with Will Planer, who was tried for allegedly fighting an Antifa and winning, and he was tried by the government twice. He had a black judge that was stacking everything against him, and he was still able to obtain a mistrial just by using intelligence.
Right.
Okay. Now, what did the guys that fought this case until the end have in common? Robert Rundo and Will Planer have been through the system before. So they've known the system very well, that you can actually, with enough energy, you can actually put up a good fight at the very least and embarrass the government. And now Caleb Cole, who is the only defendant of maybe 5 who is taking this all the way to trial with his privately paid lawyer. Now, look at the problems the federal government now has. There's a U.S. attorney. I compared it to holding a flaming bag of dog shit.
Yeah.
There's now a U.S. attorney in Caleb Cole's case that if this goes to trial as is planned, he's going to have to make a case in front of a jury for why the FBI was funding a satanic pedophile murder cult to brainwash the defendant.
Right.
Now he's going to have to explain that to a jury.
Can you just, though, run through quickly some of the stories that you've also talked about on the Hyphen? For anybody who sees this, who doesn't read it, you can just search on that website, FBI. But there's a number of them. Yeah.
So here's one explosive story that was only in the local news that I got through a tipster that I wrote about in June. An FBI agent named David Harris, serial pedophile. His victims, serial pedophile going back to at least 2016. He's an FBI field agent, a special agent working in the New Orleans field office. And guess what his beat was? Child pornography.
Well, that's no surprise there. I mean, this is something that we all suspected. The FBI is running these child porn rings. They're distributing the porn. So here's more evidence to this disgusting underworld.
Incredible. And this came out when?
This was a story I wrote in June. Did not get any national media coverage.
Right.
This is not something I made up. He's in court. There's the court documents. He's an FBI special agent in Louisiana. He's charged for, these are the charges that he's being hit with. Aggravated crimes against nature. Indecent behavior with children under the age of 13. Attempted rape, obscenity, witness intimidation. So he was keeping children and their families that were going to the police. He was keeping them quiet through his power as an FBI agent to surveil them, intimidate them. This is all going to probably come out in court. This is alleged, of course. He hasn't been convicted. He's pleading not guilty, but he started doing this.
How many of these guys are out there doing this right now? I mean, this is just like one.
What
out of
about
how
this
many?
guy the guy with the beard and the gym picture? Yeah, what happened there?
Well, that guy was arrested in Michigan. He's one of the lead agents that helped set up the famous militia plot. Everyone knows about it at this point. It's one of the most hotly covered and controversial, quote, domestic terrorism cases in American history, actually. And let's see. So far, one of the primary informants in the case, one of many, has been indicted on a gun charge because the FBI doesn't want him to take the witness stand because he is so dirty. And the lawyers, again, the lawyers in this case are fighting aggressively for their client's freedom. Right. That is something you do not ever see when political dissidents get public defenders. You never see the lawyer fight with vigor, okay?
Right.
The lawyers in the Gretchen Whitmer case are fighting with actual zeal, and they've caught the FBI with their pants down. So the FBI has been formed, the Department of Justice was forced to indict a witness who's a confidential informant that worked this case for a bullshit charge. The confidential informant was handling firearms despite being a felon under the direction of the FBI. He's probably going to be found innocent because of this, but the FBI is indicting him so that he doesn't get pulled up on the witness stand in court in the Gretchen Whitmer plot because he was heavily involved in setting these men up in really dirty ways. And then another FBI agent that was in July was arrested by local police for felony spousal abuse. Now, you can get you can get a misdemeanor battery charge for domestic violence, and it's, okay, you slap someone, you push them, something like that. But to get felony spousal abuse, you have to brutally beat a woman. And the woman in question had a big black eye, was bloodied and bruised, like,